Okay, so now we get to my team, the Canberra Raiders, a team I'm a massive fan of for the season preview for the NRL. Last season they finished ninth, 30 points, a minus 127 points differential. Ricky Stuart has signed on a contract extension to remain head coach for a couple more years. That points differential is what killed them. Newcastle didn't have a great defence either. Their defence was better, and of course Newcastle beat the Dolphins in the last game of the season. The Dolphins actually had the best points differential outside of the top 8 and in the bottom half of the table. We've just done the Dolphins in the previous video, so it did go down to the last day of the season. Was I disappointed Canberra missed? No, not really. They've been around this position now for about 3 seasons in a row, and I think they've been defying gravity for some time now. Either that's a positive for Ricky Stuart being a coach or a negative of Ricky Stuart being the coach. The fact they've now admitted they're in a transitionary rebuild, which they should have started 2022, 2021, is a bit of a concern to me, but also a positive. They realise they've got some deficiencies, they've got some young players, they need to get a bit more experience in and freshen up the squad. That's a positive and a negative. They've admitted they need to do this. I think they've left it too long. The defence and the squad depth is an issue. Look at that points differential. But you can't deny the work rate and the attitude and the team unity that is there. You cannot deny that. In some of their good wins, it was down to their work rate and attitude on their defensive line. But when they lost badly and it went a bit wrong, it was because of that inexperience and that transitionary style of squad that currently is in place. Several key players in the leadership group have retired or moved on. So they've lost a wealth of leaders and veteran presence from the leadership group. They've still got some great players there. There is no doubt on that. Tarpany and Papali'i, for example, in that forward pack are still there, which is a good thing. But they've lost, for example, Jared Croker, captain. Elliot Whitehead, captain. They've had 2 captains basically retire in 2 years. So they have lost a little bit of leadership. They've kept Papali'i and Tarpany, for example, which I think is a good thing. Xavier Savage is coming on as a winger and a fullback, and it'd be interesting to see what position he slots into. So there's some positives and some negatives. I think losing some of that experience, it has hurt them. Missing the top 8, I think, was inevitable considering where they were in 2019. I do think they've been defying gravity for a few years. The major issue I think the Raiders have is attracting players because it's Canberra. And it's been a known thing that it's harder to attract players to the capital than Sydney or Brisbane or anywhere else in Queensland, even Melbourne, even New Zealand. It is harder to attract players to go to Canberra because it gets cold in winter and it doesn't really have. It's not the most exciting city in the world. Nothing against Canberra. It's a very administrative city with a lot of insurance companies and healthcare companies and not a lot of light nightlife. It's a capital city without a lot of the attractions. It's just a run-of-the-mill kind of average place. It's just hard to attract players, and that's something that the Raiders have struggled with for a while, is attracting talent. Now, they've got a very, very good catchment area. A lot of their top talent has come through their catchment area. Jared Croker, for example, historically was a local junior. So they've got a great junior system over a very wide area in New South Wales and in the Capital Territory. The problem is retaining that talent and recruiting new talent in to replace players who've gone out. And that can be an issue. Now, the players they've got there have been willing to come from all over the world, actually. Not just New Zealand and Australia, but there's a lot of Brits that have gone to the Raiders. Partly, I think, possibly because the climate is a little bit more conducive to British talent, a little bit cooler up in the mountains. But attracting talent is an issue, and that's something that the Raiders have got to figure out how they're going to continue to attract talent in years to come. Where the clubs in Sydney and the clubs in southeast Queensland seem to have an advantage because of the nightlife and the social activities you can do. It's not just not everyone drinks and parties, but for a family to be raised, schooling, all this kind of stuff. Canberra, for some reason, it's harder to attract players, and that could hurt the rebuild. Now, would I be disappointed if they missed the top 8? No, I think that's it would be a fair assessment of where the club's at. Would I be pleasantly surprised if they make the top 8? Yes. In the seasons since 2021 where they've made the top 8, I have been surprised because of that defence being such a sieve. The defence has been an issue, and that's been an issue since 2021. And that's something that I don't think has been adequately solved by Ricky Stuart and his coaching setup. Should Ricky Stuart still be the head coach? There are some people who think he stayed on a season or two too long. Now he's signed a further contract extension. Obviously, the board has faith in Ricky Stuart to oversee this transitional period and rebuild with these new players coming in, these young players coming up. But is he the right coach to take the team forward back into the top 8, back to a grand final? He's obviously got the faith of the board to do what he's got to do. But if this season really does go horribly wrong and the confidence gets battered and the defence struggles and the team struggles with a lot of these young players, could the board regret signing Ricky Stuart to that contract extension? I can see the Raiders missing the top 8. I can see them being competitive, and I can see some of these young players getting some good game experience, some good game time. I think the rebuild should have started sooner. And I'm being more harsh on the team that I support than other teams because I've been watching this now for the last few seasons where I'm like, they've got to fall away at some point, and it's going to be a drastic fall, and then it could be a very, very long time to rebuild. The interesting thing is they've only got one wooden spoon in their entire history, and that's in their first ever season. So I don't see them being that bad, but I have concerns that they could seriously drop down the ladder and not be as competitive as they have been in recent seasons at the bottom of the top 8 kind of batch of clubs in and around the top 8. I could see them dropping away. But there we go. There's my thoughts on the Canberra Raiders this current season. I hope they pleasantly surprise me. Anything above 10th, I think, is a positive season. Anything below 10th, I think I have some concerns. If we get below 12th, 13th, then I'm really getting worried about, is Ricky Stuart the right guy to help rebuild the playing squad at this club and the transition to the next generation of Green Machine Raiders. So we'll see, but I can't see them making the top 8 personally. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the Canberra Raiders and where they potentially finish in the comments section below. But for me for now, thank you very much for watching. And I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.